They didn't plan for him to be the headline. Yet the moment the black coats parted at Westminster Cathedral and that familiar profile stepped into view, the air changed. The crowd's hush cracked into a ripple, phones came up, a gasp ran along the steps like a dropped glass skittering across stone. It was meant to be a rare, historic requiem for a devout woman who chose a different path to God, and it was, but the day also acquired an unexpected subplot the second the Duke of York's arrival broke through the solemn frame. Optics do not ask permission. They just take the room. Inside, the liturgy began its patient work, Latin that melts into breath, smoke that turns light into gold, the slow grammar of a Catholic requiem folding grief into order. The wicker coffin, woven from English willow, said more about values than any motorcade. The royal standard with its white ermine border wrote rank in a language older than television. The family's own wreath, white roses for Yorkshire, you from childhood gardens, placed memory where cameras could not. Soldiers of the Royal Dragoon Guards carried the weight with that particular softness only the trained can manage, precision that looks like tenderness. Music rose. People remembered to stand. The country borrowed the cathedral's discipline because some days cannot be survived without it. And yet outside those arches, a second story calcified in a single expression. As the mourners drifted back into daylight, lenses caught the Duke's mouth bend toward a smile, a half-laugh shared with his ex-wife, the kind of human reflex that in any other setting would pass without comment, the kind of nervous release people reach for when the air is too heavy. This time it detonated. One frame became a theory, then a verdict, then an algorithm. Another camera angle found him near the Prince of Wales, whose face, shaped by duty into something more rigid than usual, was instantly labeled uncomfortable. It may have been a blink. It became a narrative. Royal days are cruel that way. A half-second can rewrite an afternoon. It mattered because the background was already loud. The Queen was absent, kept home by a sharp, sinus-deep illness that no diary can bully and that left more of the emotional architecture on the King, the Prince and Princess of Wales, the immediate family of the Duchess herself. All of them were walking a line as thin as incense, make space for personal devotion in a public farewell without drowning the day in commentary. Within that delicate balance, the sudden brightness of a smile reads like glare. Not a crime. Not a scandal. But a flash where none was wanted. There's a truth people dislike admitting. Grief teaches protocol new manners. A funeral is a room where even the smallest gesture becomes a paragraph. Stand a fraction closer and you're mending a rift. Stare at the paving for 2 beats and you're sending a message. Mouth a line to a relative and you're joking at a funeral. Most of it is projection. But projection rules the feed, and feeds rule the hour. So the day collected 2 stories instead of one, the requiem that mattered, and the smile that hijacked it. The broader context refuses to go quiet. He is not a working royal, he stepped away. Patronage is gone, military titles removed, a civil case settled in 2022 without admission of liability after years of allegations he has always denied. The contour remains even if the headlines move on. You can't erase a silhouette from public memory by asking politely. Each rare appearance becomes a stress test for the institution and a referendum for the audience. Can the public accept him as a private family member in a public frame? Or does the frame, by default, turn the man back into the story? Today answered plainly, not yet. A smile is small, the shadow it casts is not. Even so, it would be dishonest to pretend he did not belong there. Funerals redraw the guest list in blood and vows. Whatever the weather of public feeling, this was family, and families gather to say goodbye. That truth sits uncomfortably alongside another. Public space has rules, some written, most unwritten. On days like this, restraint isn't a press strategy, it's a liturgy. The camera cannot grade sincerity, but it can grade tone. And tone, for a monarchy that lives or dies by the inch, is everything. The cathedral itself amplifies tone by design. Its Byzantine vastness encourages faces into icons, gestures into glyphs. The piper's lament, sleep, dearie, sleep, stitched this farewell to another, turning 2 griefs into one long mercy. The stillness wrapped the nave like a soft bandage. Against that background, every micro-expression swelled. The Prince and Princess of Wales did what the moment required: walk slow, hold the center, make the nation feel steadier than it did an hour before. The king carried the sort of weight you cannot see but you can sense, the set of the jaw loosened by degrees, the eyes finding their way back to focus as prayer turned to procession. The Duchess's husband and children moved like people who have learned that love has a posture. These were the true images of the day. So what, then, of the clip everyone argued about over dinner? Strip it of captions and it is almost nothing. A private line shared in public air, a mouth that forgets itself for an instant, a release. Add captions and it becomes a quiz, disrespect or nerves. Calculated signal or human error? The sensible answer, human error in a high-voltage frame, will never trend. But it is also the only answer that doesn't lie. There's a danger in letting a viral second colonize the meaning of a rare rite. The Duchess's farewell was an act of inclusion executed with care, a royal house honoring a Catholic requiem as naturally as it breathes Anglican air, a family choosing willow over lacquer, devotion over display, a nation agreeing, if only for an hour, to speak softly. That is the message the monarchy will want remembered. Not the clip. Not the commentary. The discipline, the grace, the refusal to make noise when silence could do the work. If there is a lesson here for the palace, it is not a new one. When a figure carrying that much historical charge steps into a shot, two things must happen at once: protection and perspective. Protection, because security and protocol need the picture to remain about the day, not the detour. Perspective, because family cannot be asked to amputate kinship for optics every time grief calls them to a pew. The only workable path is the one they tried to walk today: keep the focus on the purpose, keep the commentary to a minimum, trust the main story to outlast the flash. And there is a lesson for us, too. We are impatient with dignity until we need it, we mock ritual until it holds us up. A wicker coffin carried under a mosaic sky will outlast 1,000 captions. A piper's air threaded from one loss to another will play in the country's chest longer than any clip loops on a timeline. The Duchess's life, the Wimbledon poise, the classroom humility, the chosen faith held without fanfare deserved the calm center the service gave it. That is the part that matters. The rest is weather. In a week, two images will remain. The first is the procession, willow under the standard, the lament undoing and readying the nation's throat, the family moving as one body in a cathedral built to keep hearts from breaking too loudly. The second, those few frames at the steps, will have thinned back into noise, a reminder that optics can be petty even when the stakes are not. What will endure is the proof that a modern monarchy can let a private conviction shape a public goodbye without fear and without fuss. What will endure is a day that chose reverence over volume. There's a line that fits today better than any analysis: not every storm raised by a camera is weather. The clip was a draft, the requiem was the climate. And the climate, against every temptation to the contrary, held.